Management Group Adcorp Holdings released higher interim earnings to August. Revenue 41% to 4 billion rand. Diluted headline earnings per share rose by 13% to 127 cents, and the interim divvy increased 3 cents to 60 cents a share. With me in the studio now is Chief Executive Richard Pack. Richard, welcome.
Thanks very much.
Tell us about that big jump in earnings.
The big jump in earnings is partly a bit flattering given that we did a big acquisition. We bought Paracon, which was a listed company, subsequently delisted. That came into the group effective 1st of December last year. So that did bolster obviously our earnings and our revenue. But that said, we still did have good organic growth in the group, so I'm very pleased with the performance for the first 6 months.
And on the cost side?
On the cost side also we've done well. If you look at our cost ratios relative to our income, we've done really well on that, so we've tried to contain that. We also have ongoing initiatives around cost. It is a big issue for us. We've outsourced a proportion of our back office, created a shared service, and I think if you look at our costs going forward over the next couple of years, we'll see probably good savings. We'll see economies of scale, which will be good for our margin.
So have you already seen some integration benefits from your acquisition or not?
It's quite early days. We're just under a year in terms of what they've done, but I think the contribution that their management has made in the greater group in terms of their strategic input, some of the things we've learned from them and hopefully them from us, I think it's been a fantastic acquisition and the business is performing particularly well, which is great.
Tell us about how your two business units did. You call them blue collar section and the white collar section.
Blue collar is quite interesting. Blue collar is the engine room of the group, if you like, and that's where the big profit generation comes from, and that's done fantastically well. If you look at the EBITDA contribution, and that's all organic, the EBITDA line grew by 31%. Now, the interesting thing around that is that is in the thick of the whole debate around labour broking. It's the kind of blue-collar shop floor type of work that we do that, and the demand is fantastic. So, there's a lot of uncertainty if you look at impending labour legislation. The Marikana massacre, as tragic as it was, has created a lot of uncertainty at shop floor level. And I think that if you look at clients, they've tended to favour contract labour in preference to permanent labour, and so that's been to our benefit.
Do you think that will increase?
I think
contract workers?
I think that there are a couple of trends. Unfortunately, I think that unemployment is going to be the casualty as far as Marikana is concerned. I think there'll be utilisation of more contract workers, but there'll be also greater...
How bad do you think unemployment is going to get?
Well, the other thing I think is going to happen, and we're already seeing it, is there's an adoption of automation, mechanisation, offshoring, and so, how bad can it get, I don't know, but definitely right now the signs are that people are very reticent to employ.
That's going to be, that sounds extremely concerning.
It is, when the country identified unemployment as the number one challenge. Everything that we seem to be doing is mitigating against creating jobs at the moment, and it's been a very unfortunate couple of months as far as industrial relations have been concerned.
You mentioned that there's been great clarity on labour broking. Is this the end of the story?
I don't think it's the end of the story. I think it might be the end of the legislative story. There's legislation that's pending for parliamentary approval, which may happen at the end of this year or the beginning of next year. But I think at shop floor level there'll still be quite a lot of pressure. It's certainly an issue that comes up in wage demands and negotiations at shop floor level, that people don't like the concept, or the unions don't like the concept of contract labour. So I think that the battleground moves from a legislative one to an on the ground.
So this is a temporary stay of execution.
Absolutely, yeah.
What about your white collar worker business?
White collar is less affected. The legislation only affects people.
How did that business
How did it do?
Yeah.
Well, Paracon's part of that, so they did particularly well. The balance of the business was quite stagnant, but it's got a very high focus in the financial services sector as well as the telco sector, and those sectors have been quite stagnant in terms of job creation, so not that well. Our permanent recruitment operations have done particularly well, and that's very, very encouraging in a very soft jobs market, but they've focused quite nicely on things like engineering and IT, where there is a skills shortage. shortage. So I think they've been able to buck the trend because of their positioning.
Tell us briefly, Richard, about your strategic alliance with the world's second largest resource operator, Randstad.
Yeah, we've struck an alliance. It's a formal alliance. We signed it off about a week or so ago with Randstad. Randstad is number 2 in the world, as you say. And if you look at what's happening globally, a lot of the big global players are touting for business on a global scale with multinationals who tend to use one of the providers across the whole world. The one geography that none of them have any representation in is Africa, and Randstad have asked us if we would be their representative in this geography in Africa. We've agreed to that, and I think the opportunities are great for cross-referred work.
How does it actually work? You supply them with skilled labor?
No, we are referred by them to a client in South Africa who would be the local representative of a global client of theirs. Okay. So it's referred work essentially.
And what is your outlook going forward? Because we are in this labour strife position. Yeah. How are you positioning yourself?
I think it's a soft jobs market, as I say, but I think our positioning is quite strong in terms of market share gains. Definitely there's a rationalization in the number of players that are out there, and we are gaining market shares, and the demand is very strong. I think there's a greater adoption of technology and sophistication by our clients, centralized procurement, the utilization of tenders, and we're very well positioned for that. So I think it's a market that favors the big players such as ourselves, so I think that'll be good for us. I think market share is there for the taking, and I'm quite enthusiastic about where we're positioned. I think some of our initiatives we put in place, for example, on the cost side, should bolster our margins. I think that our revenues will continue to grow quite nicely over the next period, and hopefully if there's an economic upswing in the next 3 to 5 years, once we've consolidated our position from a market share point of view, we'll be in a great position to take advantage of an upswing.
We're in the midst of labour strife. What should business be doing?
It's a difficult one. I think that there's going to be more strife. I think a lot of turf wars at local level. I think business needs to be aware of it. There is an increase in these sort of independent unions, non-affiliated unions, such as AMCO we saw in that Marikana strike. So I think that employers need to be very aware of what's happening at shop floor level, and their mainstream unions may not be representative of what's happening at shop floor level. I think they need to keep their ears quite close to the ground, and I think they need to be sensitive to the demands of those workers.
How should business deal with the huge income disparity in this country? Is it fair that the chief executive gets paid millions and Rockdale operated 12.5?
Yeah, I know that's always the debate, but to me it's a double-edged sword. It's not just about pure wages. You can't simply just increase wages. You have to increase wages and productivity, and you want prosperity for all. You want an increase in wages, but the way that it's earned is through productivity increases, and I think that's what's been missing in this mining debate. Is there's just been across the board a huge increase in wages, but no reference back to productivity. So I think that the negotiations that take place into the future should be very closely allied with productivity. Productivity improvement it means that there's wage improvement. If there's wage improvement, there's improvement in prosperity, and you close that gap.
And if you have a job, to hold on to it.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.